Gina and Justin Cohen, thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to chat.
Awesome. Hey, before we jump into Petite Acres, would you guys mind just taking a second, kind of walk us through your background, where you guys are from?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to time us because Justin and I can be a little long-winded when it comes to our background. I'll try to do it in 30 seconds or less. Background for me, I started in content and social strategy for large brands, and then founded a health and wellness media business called A Sweat Life, which I still run today. And then Justin and I started talking about Petite Acres during the pandemic and really started working on Petite Acres in 2023.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I spent about 20 years in early stage tech here in Chicago, which is where we're based. We're in the West Loop right now, running marketing and products. So chief marketing and chief product officer in a slew of different industries, from fintech to health tech to prop tech. And that's where I initially got my first, taste of the real estate space. I helped build what became Pangea Properties, which became the largest private REIT in Chicago. When I started, we had 200 units we owned and managed. By the time I left, we had 13,000 and across 600 buildings, $120 million rent revenue business, 600 million assets. Had a team of about 115 people under me, 700 people in the company. It was a blast. And Gina and I have also built a company off of A Sweat Life called Sweatworking, which is a health and wellness media play using B2B SaaS platform for gyms and studios to deliver on-demand workout experiences. So we've had the pleasure of working together, so we know how to work together. We built it together and scaled businesses, and excited to kind of dive into Petite Acres, kind of melding two of our passions together.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think I seen a post from the article that was written about Petite Acres in the New Buffalo Facebook group. And I was like, oh, someone's doing it. Someone's doing what we've kind of always talked about doing. So I was really excited that somebody was actually jumping into it. And I thought there was a great opportunity in that area for something like this. So yeah, tell us about Petite Acres. Where is it exactly? And kind of what will it look and feel like when it's all said and done? And where did the idea come from?
Oh boy, so many questions and so many good answers. So we'll start with where the idea came from, I guess. So in 2020, and I'm going to preface this by saying, this is completely true. I am not blowing wind up your skirt here. I started having this recurring dream of me on a small farm, and I would wake up from this dream. Justin Cohen, sitting next to me, is my husband, and I would say to him some version of I was on the small farm again. And really what that amounted to is I was looking for space, but wasn't ready to articulate what that meant to me yet. And so as we started looking for space in a lake house for friends and family to go visit, we found this spot out of a lot of spots we were looking at in New Buffalo, Michigan, at 1109 East Buffalo. And as we were looking at the property, it was held in a trust. It had been owned by a family for a really long time, and it was just over 4 acres, but just really wooded and had a single family home on it. As we looked at it, we weren't super interested in the house itself, but then our real estate agent said the phrase fully deeded for commercial use. And we both had a moment. So we record scratched, we stopped, and we started really putting pen to paper and dreaming about what Petite Acres could be. You want to share a little bit about what's going to be there?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to the story too, because I think it was interesting. One being Gina's built a tremendous community at A Sweat Life. So A Sweat Life is a health and wellness media company. They have over 1 million active readers yearly on their website, but they also have built community at its core. So all about creating friendship, creating connectivity through shared experiences. And they have over 1,000 ambassadors that are part of that program and looking to do more experiential items. And we were able to do really cool events with Miraval that A Sweat Life partnered with for a period of time, and bring people together and feel that kind of connectivity and how you create offline experiences, especially coming out of COVID, where people are really wanting to disconnect, get away from cities and travel in that sense. And the second part was in 2021, I had a neck surgery. I had a couple discs replaced in my neck, and I took a year off. And I was kind of just exploring what I wanted to do next. And Gina and I were fortunate. We were able to kind of pack the car up with our dog, went down to Austin, Texas for a month, then went to Colorado. And we kind of were just exploring different areas, Nashville, and Santa Fe, and things we really liked, about the wellness side. And then shortly thereafter, we were able to take a trip for my 40th to Paris and then to Bordeaux. And we stayed in this incredible chateau, Les Sources de Claudely, and we were able to experience kind of farm to table and nature and these like kind of really cool bunk houses and individual homes on property. And the whole family that runs it is there and walking around and entertaining everybody. And it was so cool to kind of see, and you felt at peace. And I think we came back from that trip, and then it kind of was like a light bulb moment to like, oh, this is kind of what Gina's been talking about for a while with this like farm and experience. And that's really kind of was the impetus to push us to really start looking in Southwest Michigan to say, where could we actually do this? And that kind of leads us into the land, and what we were able to find at 1109 East Buffalo. It's half mile from downtown Whitaker Street in New Buffalo, a mile to the water, and right off of Red Arrow, very centrally located. Ghost Owl Brewery across street, Redemax, a block away, right, as well. And we just felt a lot of the vibrance within the community, and we loved the connectivity it had, to all of Southwest Michigan. It's the entry point. And what we wanted to bring was a little bit of that French feel that we had in Bordeaux to this region. There's a lot of like barn experiences, and it's beautiful, but we wanted to kind of extend it and make something different and really bring the community together. So on the property, we have an event center. It's about 4,700 square feet. It could host up to 205 people, but typically it would be for weddings, corporate retreats, venues, etc. 150 seated. Full catering kitchen, beautiful bar, and the facility is going to be brick and quarry stone, so it's going to be beautiful, and we're super excited for it to come together. And then we have two gardens that are kind of the crown jewel that's surrounded at the top of the bluff on the hill. One is we call the Great Lawn. It's for entertainment, ceremonies, movie nights, yoga nights. We really want to be very integrated into the community and be able to bring new events to the region where they don't typically have an off season. We also have a beautiful garden that will grow crop in, flowers, food, so that we could have chef experiences on site as well. And we'll have residencies and things of that nature, so that the herbs and fruits, etc., could be used. We also have a main home on the property, which is a 4-bed, 2-bath that can be rented and part of the experience, but also great for entertainment. Welcome drinks, celebrations could all start there. We have a gym, sauna, and cold plunge, kind of really tying into Gina's experience in the wellness space, but it's modular in nature. It's strength focused. It's not going to be a standard hotel gym. You can't really get a good workout in. There's going to be turf. There's going to be racks and weights, but also heavy stuff, but also
nice
bikes, and ways to move. And then we'll have 11 other rentable units on property. So 2 1-bedrooms that are about 420-ish square feet, and then 8 2-bedroom suites that are about 520 square feet. So really well built out in kind of a U shape on the property, and then a bunkhouse in the middle that's like 1,100 square feet, meant for group experiences and travel, which is what we're really tied into. Fire pits throughout, walking trails. We're really excited to kind of bring it all together.
That's awesome. What will kind of the 1 or the 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, what will those kind of be like? Are they cabins, A-frames? What's the feel of those?
Well, we describe them as suites. You could look at them as tiny homes too, but they're really designed to feel like a hotel suite. The 1-bedrooms will have a kitchenette, living, dining area, luxurious bedroom, and then a great bathroom. And then the 2-bedrooms will have all of those amenities plus an additional bedroom with a twin over full or a twin over queen. All of them will have pull-out couches. But the design is really where they'll shine as well. Each one will have sort of its own unique color story, but they'll have sort of one tied in aesthetic that feels a little bit French, a little bit colorful. I don't want to give too much away, but they'll sort of have themes to the flowers that grow in the region too.
That's incredible. I will say it does seem like your guys' background serves you well in creating, this really unique, it sounds like you got a great background in marketing and then real estate and then the wellness space. I mean, so it seems like it's going to serve you well on creating this very amazing place. How many people can sleep on the premises? Like if it was maxed out, I guess.
We usually say it's between like 40 to 60. Depends on comfort. What we really were aiming for was if you have a wedding with us that's 150 people, you can have like a third of your wedding stay on site. And you create this really unique, campy experience where your bridal party, your wedding party, or your closest family and friends are staying on site. And the whole property becomes yours over that weekend when you rent with us. And so we're looking really for bespoke, unique experiences for those that stay with us. So we're not going to be kind of a, lack of a better term, like a churn and burn, do 100 weddings in a year. We really want to have a small amount that are renting out the full weekend and are here to really drive experience together. So we think we'll be very well booked out from that perspective, and a place that people are really from an exclusive experience looking to stay on and have events with us.
So if I was going to go and look for a romantic weekend with my wife down in this area, this has a lot of the things that we would look for sure. During the week, in the off season and weekends like that, are there going to be opportunities for people to rent individual units, or is it the whole thing or nothing?
Great question. So what's amazing about group travel, things like weddings, corporate retreats, wellness retreats, is they tend to book farther out. So if you're booking a wedding, you're probably booking a year and a half, a year out. Same with corporate retreats. So we can sort of block off those weekends a year, 9 months in advance, and then open up our bookings for those sort of one-off stays 6 months out. So yes, we'd love for you to stay with us and have a romantic weekend or week with your wife. And we'll do our very best with our partnerships to make sure that you have additional experiences that make it special too.
That's awesome. Let's talk timeline. So you guys purchased it, was it last year? Where are you at in the development process, and when do you anticipate completion?
Everybody knock on wood right now. Listening, interviewing, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's been an incredible adventure thus far, and will continue to be. We were fortunate to tour the property. It was September of 2023, and that's kind of in earnest when we were kind of looking in that time frame. And we saw the land, as Gina mentioned, deeded for hotel use, which is how we're represented as a business hotel with an event venue, which is why we're able to have short-term stays, which is incredible because, as you all know, in Southwest Michigan, most of those resort towns now have short-term rental caps, which make it hard, for more people to experience, how incredible that region is. So you're able to bring more units to the market, which is awesome. And we were able to collaborate, with local community members to help us kind of bring this vision to life. That was really important for us, between our architect, our engineer, our landscape architect, design, general contractor, all from the region. And so we were able to really get great conversations with the city early on to understand, what would they be interested in bringing to the market, and how could we really have more community events and experiences, because they don't want just things that are just summer only. It's nice, right? But they want things that are more year round and more 365 days a year, because there's it gets a little quiet, and certain things have gone away too, like farmers markets and other areas they really want. So that was important for us to learn early. And so by the time we had the property under contingency, we closed in December, basically almost January of 24 was kind of the timeline. And then we got to work right away. And we worked very closely with the city, who was phenomenal to work with. No blockades, no issues, nice. Very collaborative in the process. Darwin Watson, the city manager, has been awesome, as well as the entire city council and planning commissions that we've been able to work with. As even
the former mayor, the new mayor.
Yeah, even to like the Gallium River Sewage Department. We worked with the superintendent there, and we actually toured the facility, because we really wanted to understand what's going on and create good relationships in the market. And so we were able to get the plans approved initially by the Planning Commission in April, and then by May, June, the City Council both unanimously approved our site plans. And then we kind of got into the nitty gritty with the sewage department, water departments, get all the right certifications and approvals on the full site plan. Because there's a lot there, especially being so close to the river and the lake. You have to be mindful of drainage, and do we have the right sewage, and so on and so forth on site.
And it's important to us to protect the waterways too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so, we were able to get the full approval by basically end of the year of 24. And then as of about 3 weeks ago, we got the building permit approved, which is awesome. So we expect to start work end of this month, early May is the target. Knock on wood, definitely. And we're hoping to be live in Q2 of 26.
Nice.
So, a little over a year development. Yeah. And it's our goal to really start having conversations and start pre-booking at some point in Q3 of this year. So really excited to start really talking more and more about the property and providing the evolution of what's there. We're worked with a local group, a New Odyssey, to help us do drone footage tours of the property as the development's occurring. So you actually get to see the development happening, over the months, time-lapse videos and things like that. So we're gonna do a lot of documentary with it.
That's awesome.
I love the story you're sharing, and the permit, just the Instagram permit picture and all that kind of stuff. It sounds like it's going incredibly smoothly for such a big project. Have you guys had any big roadblocks or surprises or anything that's been an oh crap moment yet?
Jordan, when have we not had a surprise? I think that's the entrepreneurial journey, and that's also the journey of building something in construction too. Like for every up, there is a down. Like for every positive, there's something learned. So we've definitely learned a lot along the way. We've had moments where maybe we've gotten really excited about a part of the process, and we've missed, for example, including the sewage department for the Glean River, and then had to double back and make sure that we included them. So just learning all of the parties that are involved has been really, really integral for us. But we've learned a lot along the way. So yes, there have been roadblocks, and we know that there'll continue to be roadblocks. Thankfully, they're built into our timeline.
Yeah, I think for us, what's central to how we're building Petite Acres and how we think about business as people is connection and collaboration is so important. And I think sometimes people forget that other people on the other side. And so for us, it was all about how do we meet everybody within the process, and how do we understand, what needs to get done, what the timelines look like, what they're expecting from us. And that's also why it was so important for us to work with local groups. So Brooks Architectural is in Stevensville, led by Ade and Brittany on our team, have been phenomenal. They've done hundreds of projects in the region. And so they understand all the steps to the process. That's why it was so important to work with local individuals that are also awesome at what they do, because it helps us understand what needs to get done. And they also have relationships, and they can make a call if they need to make a call and say, hey, what's going on here? And what do we need to do here? And they've created those relationships and forged them over time. So that's something that bleeds through what we care about. We're never just email only. If we need to, drive in and have a conversation and set up and reset level expectations, that was what we did. And also the city met us where we were too. So when I was like, hey, it looks like we're a little stuck. Can we set up a meeting? They're like, yeah, absolutely. And they brought in the water department when there's a question on our plan in terms of how we were delivering water to the event venue and all the various dwellings. Once we sat down at a table, they were uber collaborative and came up with a better solution too. So it's all about being open to that discussion and having the right people at the table. So that really helped us, and something that we care a lot about. We're not trying to steamroll, we're not trying to go around the process. We're trying to work because it's a long-term partnership for us.
Yeah. I guess Jordan and Tony, am I allowed to ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you've done 127 of these interviews. We're doing ground up construction. What do you think we should be ready for? What do you think we should gear up for?
Yeah, so I mean, we're typically already buying places or managing places that are already kind of in, they're already built, so we haven't really done a ton of ground up development. So we're really looking to glean a little bit from you guys in the process. I mean, one thing that you were just talking about that I wanted to touch on is like, so you closed these essentially January, right? But then you got approval on April. Did you have some kind of like, hey, don't worry, if if you buy it and this is what you're intending to do, you'll be fine and like it'll happen? To me, that's like, I'm very conservative and very, Jordan would call me basically a chicken, right? So it's like buying it and then like not necessarily having the stamp of approval of like everything. So I'm just curious, like, was there some kind of confirmation prior to you guys closing on that, that like, yeah, you'll be fine to do what you want to do with it?
Well, I think we have barking dogs, so let us know if you.
No worries.
The life. So I think you're meeting our two personalities here. So I'm a little more like, let's go, let's do it. Big steps, big risks. Justin loves a big risk too, but he also is a little more of a planner, a little more of a contingency planner. So he definitely was thinking through like what would happen if we didn't get approved, because the property had sort of two pieces of land within the parcel. You want to talk through that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think like kind of how it was laid out was it was two pins, two parcels, and the reason being was because there was 3 paper roads on the plat. One that was through the property, one on the side, and one in the back. And I think that's potentially a little bit of the reason why it sat on the market for so long as well, was the fact that there was some obstacle. There's also grade change in the property. So where we sit, it's about 40 feet elevated from Red Arrow, which is great and fully tree lined. So it provides a lot of privacy.
Nice.
But then it kind of grades down 40 feet kind of at the tail end of the property. And that's where we have our overflow parking, and we're going to have group experiences down there, like farmers markets, art fairs, really think like Austin food truck lot style over time. But I think, traditional buyers of commercial spaces, they have to re-level all that land. And that's a lot of dirt to move, a lot of changes to make, a lot of trees to move and clear too. We want to keep as many trees as possible in our plan. We want to nestle the structures kind of in between. So I think that was definitely a concern. Like these roads, like these, paper roads, what do we do with them? Will the city be willing to vacate those roads? And how do we go about that? So they're all learning, right? That whole process. And we did look at it and we said, hey, like, down case scenario, we build a home here, and we have a space, or we sell off one parcel, or we build homes on both parcels and sell. There was a lot of optionality behind it, but we never really entertained it. We really said, this is our plan. This is where we're going, but we can have other options that we get back into if needed. But as you mentioned, things that are really important to us was sitting down with the city early and kind of walking them through what we were thinking about doing. So we took the land. We had a really good friend who's a product designer I've worked with in past life, but also a landscape architect. And before she joined and became a product manager, she helped us lay the property out with structures and design and thoughts. And so we had a really good overview of what this could become. And it's actually probably 90% the same of where we are today, just a couple changes as we had evolution for it. But being able to show that, with the city was important to get confirmation that this is something that could be well received in the market. And so being able to set up those conversations were useful to get an idea of what this would look like. And then navigating the process, understanding what we need to do, who we need to gather, and then how do we bring it all together to kind of move those pieces forward. And we were fortunate to work with the city because they saw the value of what we wanted to build, and that we were able to vacate those streets as part within the planning commission and the city council because they wanted to see this project move forward. So those are things that were very important within those steps. And without them, it would be hard to build this project. The other thing we were very lucky that Gina mentioned early is, it's deeded for commercial use, hotel, motel, restaurant, bar. You don't have to rezone. You don't have to do anything that would overly complicate the development either. So we were kind of like, it was handed to us and we're like, okay, let's now figure it out.
Was that advertised in the listing, or was that kind of like, hey, here's a house on some land, and oh, hey, by the way, when you call about it, they're like, hey, oh, and by the way, it's deeded commercial, so you could use it?
Yeah.
I don't think we noticed it in the listing, if I'm being honest. I do not think when we stepped foot on that property, we really knew that it was deeded for commercial use, because it really felt like a surprise to both of us when our real estate agent, Tammy Grayson, mentioned it. We really both went, whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean? What do you mean? And started asking, to Justin's point, started asking a lot of questions. Like, what does that mean? Who do we have to talk to? What is the process for this?
So a lot of people probably might have passed on it just because they didn't even know that it was, kind of had that deeded access or deeded commercial.
Yeah, I think Gina called the city a bunch of times to kind of get information, about the property and were there any tax issues or who knows what, and kind of what's
is this available?
And they said they had like 15 or 20 calls, from other commercial builders who were interested in it. I think it was just the complication of the unknowns. And when you're a commercial builder, we had a little more flexibility because we are individuals at that point. We bought the property under, the LLC, but it was kind of, what do we then think about? We were kind of like, we were coming at it from the inverse, where a lot of commercial developers come at it, where we bought the land and they were like, okay, like, how do we then do this? And how do we raise the funds to go do this at the same time? So we were kind of meeting it where we had the opportunity and we said, let's execute on this really unique opportunity where traditional commercial buyers have everything lined up. They're just trying to find, the right land to then, deploy that capital. So a little bit different in that time frame that we had to.
Yeah, that's one of the issues we had when we were looking is a lot of the properties that we were finding were residential. And I did have some conversations with people at the city, and they don't have a lot of interest in. It's very, very difficult to change zoning. Rezoning is, they just don't really want to. So then we were looking about the same time you were probably, and the values have gone up a ton because of the medical marijuana stuff there in the area. So that was another challenge we had, was just competing with the economics of that. So I'm curious, you said you brought in investors. Like, how did you go through the process to underwrite this? Because you're talking about something that you've got kind of the motel vibe, you've got the event space. Like, where do you look to underwrite this? Because this is something that has held us back. I'm more of the gung-ho guy, and then Tony's like, wait a minute, let's not go bankrupt on this deal. So how do you go through and find data to underwrite a deal like this?
Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? Well, I'll kick it off and then you jump in. Okay. So first we started to value what we wanted to build, so we thought about, and to be honest, Jordan, we came about this in a totally different direction than a lot of folks maybe would have and should have. And we'll do this differently, like in the future, but I think it landed us via luck, happenstance, and time and place in exactly where we were meant to be. That said, when we started the process, we started by saying, okay, these are the structures that we want to build. Dream scenario. How much is that going to cost at the end of the day? How much can we bring to that table? And how much do we need to bring in friends and family for? And then how much do we need to finance through a more traditional route? And so once we sort of had those numbers, we could go out to the market.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's probably 3 times larger of a build than we initially set out. And that was just over time, kind of thinking about how we'd actually, we started off initially at like a 99 unit, 99 person, not unit, 99 person event space. Yeah, and then we're like, we'll just do like small events and things. And we're like, we're missing a huge part of the market. And we're able to, by having conversations, we brought on an incredible investor, and she's one of our advisors who has multiple wedding venues. She's like, this is the number you really need to hit. And we talked to a wedding consultant, we talked to the market, we got feedback, we did a ton of research into the space. We're also fortunate, we're investors in a group called Stoic Lane, and one of their core businesses is Monarch Collective. they're now the second largest short-term rental manager in the country, and they're buying great mom and pop rental managers all over the country, from Tahoe to Maui to the